Alright guys, so we've got a new project coming in. This one is a GU Patrol and it's got the TB48 engine in it that we're doing a bunch of work to. So I'll give you a walk around and I'll give you a brief on what we're doing. Alright, so we've got the car in. We've got a GU 2005 model, and all in front of us is the parts that we're going to be fitting up to it. So it's got a TB48, which is a petrol engine. We're going to be putting this big dog on it. I don't know what size it is, but I reckon it could swallow a small child. And we're going to couple it with this PWR intercooler. We've got M-Tron sensors, like we've got O2 sensors, we've got really nice intercooler flanges that we're going to be putting on all the piping. These are a Tarx quick release, connector to the throttle body, fuel pumps, injectors. We'll come over here, we got an intake plenum cast buoy who actually bolts onto the existing stock plenum, as you can see. And that'll increase the volume by a lot. It would also route the throttle body where we need it. Big old wastegate that's going to dump all the exhaust pressure. And then we're moving over here, we've got a bit more fab stuff. So we've got a long arm kit going in, superior. This is the 6-boost manifold that we're going to be using to hold that big turbo up. It's been on the car already before, but we'll give it a bit of love and some black paint. It'll look fresh and new again. And then the long arm mounts, and there's going to be a lot more behind the scenes going. So we're going to go full 4-inch dump exhaust with a little dump cutout, and 3.5 all the way with twin mufflers and all the jazz going up around there. We've got intake stuff and there's a lot going on. So man, let's not waste any time, just get straight into it. Oh yeah? So we're just making up some room for this intercooler. Looks like we're going to have to do some relocating. We've got oil coolers and power steering coolers and stuff, so just going to have to move some parts around. That winch is definitely going to have to go forward by the looks of, I wouldn't say definitely, possibly have to go forward. So we'll start doing a bit of rearranging. See if it goes on.
Are you filming that?
So we just wrapped up the car, make sure it's all nice and safe, because we're going to start doing some cutting. So shirt fire's removed all the front. All of these supports need to go so that we can get this big old intercooler in there. Alright, so now that everything's out of the way, shirt fire's removed everything from over here too, so we can run our 3-inch intercooler piping there and there. We've got to make up he's also chopped this, I should say, actually. So the support bar for that is chopped, but once the intercooler's in place, it'll, like the structural part of this will go through the intercooler and then bolt into the bottom, so it'll be nice and strong again. So now we've got to mount up, we'll sit our intercooler in place, probably with some straps, and see where we want it, and then we're going to make our bracket for it. So get this guy over here and sit him in. So before we get the intercooler on, we just remember that we've got the power steering cooler. So what we do is they sit like that, from the factory. We're just going to flip it around the other way, remove the bracket, modify that side, and then this will sit right up in there, and then the two hoses duck in over there. So I gave those a little bit more of a bend with the bender, and then we'll make a bracket there and then up to there, and then that should be hidden away behind the intercooler. Alright, our power steering cooler is on, relocated. Now we can throw the hoses on and we can sit up the intercooler in there. So intercooler is in place. We've just got some straps holding it where we want it. Now all we have to do is make our top bracket to suit, and then bottom brackets, and then once that's done we can start on the intercooler piping. So Surefire is just getting the manifold sort of roughly put on with a couple of bolts, and then we'll get the turbo there so we can see where the pipework routing is going to go. We're just welding up the intercooler at the moment. We're putting the little joiners on the ends, the little Torx joiners. So we've just done the left side, as you can see, and it extends out a little bit as well so that we can get past the AC bend just here. So I've just put this side on, and now we're going to put this side over here, and then we can refit the intercooler and we can continue on with the piping. Intercooler is fitted straight back up. So now we got these guys on there so we can continue our pipe work. So we're going to go through here and same on the other side. Straight in. Okay, so we're just about to put the turbo on so that we can see what route we're going to take. So we've got this pipe done, and then we're going to go through here, around here, and then up to the turbo. So we'll get the turbo on for good. We've got a gasket, we've got some studs to put in, and then we can throw the turbo on.
Couple voiceovers for that one.
Alright, turby's on. And now one thing we need to think about is the core. So at the moment the drain is facing up and the feed is down. So that's opposite to what we want. So we're going to have to rotate that. But we've left it all loose, so this can all be rotated at the moment so we can get it all clocked and nice for what we're trying to do here. So we'll get that facing 180 degrees the other way, and then we can nip it up. Finally got that boost pipe in, tacked up, so it'll sit like that with the clamp on it, and then it runs down there, out there, into the intercooler. So we can get this off now, completely weld it up, and then fit it. That pipe is all welded up now. It's just letting it cool down a bit. While I do that, I thought I might tell you, because I don't think all of you would actually know what these clamps, how they work. So basically, for those of you who don't know, there's an O-ring that gets welded, I should say like a O-ring retainer, which gets welded onto the 3-inch pipe. And then on both sides, they look like, I don't have any out. Like these things. So there we go. So that just gets welded on the 3-inch pipe, and then you can put an O-ring on it once it's welded, and then there's a sleeve here. That goes on there, like that. And then you slip the pipe in, and then this clamp goes over the two to hold them there. And then these has got a lip on it, so they can't be pulled apart. So they can hold way more boost than just a hose clamp, and they're a lot more reliable too. So we'll put the pipe on, and I'll show you what I mean. So we've got the clamps on, and that is what it looks like when she's done. So the next step before we can get this throttle body on, and the other half of the intake manifold on, we've got to get the fuel rail back in there, but we need to remove this factory fuel regulator and put a -6 weld-on fitting here, male, so that we can run an aftermarket fuel regulator, because we're going to be obviously needing a lot more fuel now that we've got this guy in play. So I'm going to sort of modify this up a bit and weld a little -6 on there. What we've got now is we lobbed that off, the factory one, and we've put a little -6 AN so that we can now make a line up, and then that line can go to the fuel pressure regulator and we can have control of it. So now that that's welded on, we're going to fit this up into the car now with the new injectors, and the manifold can then go on, which will allow us to put the throttle body on, which will allow us to put our other charge pipe in, which is the goal. So that's why we're doing this little modification of the fuel rail now, because it's kind of like needs to get done before everything else gets put on. Alright, so to continue on with our boost pipe, I couldn't put the fuel rail in yet because I needed to order some adapters for the fuel injectors so that they're 3/4 to full length. So while we wait for them to come, I just threw a couple bolts in the intake manifold so we can continue on. Now, to get the throttle body on, to be able to put the little Tarx adapters on, that guy goes there, we need to get the edge of this ready for an O-ring flange. So you can get these little guys, which basically go on to the throttle body, real nice, and then that gets bolted down, and then that converts it to the quick release clamp. Alright, so as usual, hit a bit of a snag. When you try and fit aftermarket parts, it doesn't usually go super smooth, but that's alright. So the throttle body sits nice on the flange, except all of these bolt holes do not line up, and if there's two that do line up, but then that body's completely offset to this hole. So what I'm doing, just drilled out all the threads. Also, yeah, they were M8 and we need M6 holes, so it just wasn't going to work. So I've drilled out all these holes to clean up the thread, and now I'm going to weld them up, and then we can drill new holes in the right spot. Alright, so after a lot of work, I've finally made up a jig. It's definitely not the easiest thing I've ever had to machine, but we welded up the holes, and now we've just got to machine this whole top thing flat. But because this intake manifold is round and off shape and off center and everything, I've had to make up some pretty wild things here. But I think we'll get this to work, and I've just got enough height, thankfully. So that's max height, so I'll just get it in. So we're gonna give this up a machining. Alright, it's all machined up. It's all looking pretty good. There's a tiny little air bubble here, just from when I filled one of the holes with the alley, but it's only like a couple mil deep, so, and we're going to be drilling new holes there anyway, so I'm not too worried. But the rest came up really, really good, and it's nice and flat. So now we can get our holes sorted. All right, finally got our holes drilled in. We deburred the inner part here as well, and throttle body does fit. So now we can get some sealant on that machine surface there to this machine surface, put him on, and we're away. Throttle body is now back on, and now tomorrow morning we can connect these guys so they're not Wi-Fi anymore. Alright, finally got a chance to finish this boost pipe on the cold side. Got nice flowy bends in there. I didn't use any donuts. Try to keep it real nice and long turns. Had a fair bit of room in there actually, which was pretty cool. So I think we're on to the exhaust now. We got the first section of the dump tacked up. So, and I'm happy with the placement, so I'm going to go ahead and weld up this bend in here, and we've got a little straight section with a V-band that's going to go on the end of that as well. Alright, so all the welding's done on the dump pipe now, but we got to still get an incision for the wastegate to get plumbed in, and then tack that up and then final weld that as well. So we'll probably put it back in the car now and line up all that stuff. I look like an old man. It's not the best lighting on the old Perla. There we go. Alright, I've been super busy with this exhaust. As you can see, bits everywhere. This is a section for the screamer that gets plumbed back in. I'll take you underneath and show you what I've done. So we got the screamer and the dump coming down there. Obviously the screamer's not plumbed in yet, but we go into a flex joint, and it's a bit crooked offset because I had to get some room to fit this very large 4-inch pipe in here. So she snakes around. These are gonna get moved around, away from this a little bit, so that won't be touching. It had to be millimeter perfect through here. I'm pretty happy with the result so far. So we got the electronic dump opener valve thing. And it goes over there, and we go from 4-inch to 3.5-inch through here. Bum it over there, and muffler, and then another V-band. I'm going to mount the next section, which jumps over the rear axle, and it goes into another resonator. So I'll keep ticking away, but she's looking really good. So I finally got the screamer pipe all tacked up and ready for a final weld through. It was a little bit tricky and tight for space in there, so we had to do a bit of a lobster going on here, and then a couple in there, but we got a nice radius for the end which goes into the dump, so happy with that. So we've got it ticked up. So that's all finished now. It's real hot, so I'm just going to let it sit there and cool down. And while I wait, we've got to do the cutout in the dump pipe for the screamer to fit into. So now we've got to pull that guy down, and I've already had it up, and you can see the marking there that I've got to chop out. So we'll pull this off and chop out the hole, and then we can refit the dump and then get the screamer up in there and then tack the screamer onto the dump pipe, and then they've got to come off again, final weld them, and then they get fitted for the last time. Dump pipe is fully welded and has the screamer plumbed in, also fully welded. So that can now go back in the car for the final time. We also got the O2 sensor welded on as well. Oh. Okay, I finally finished the exhaust. That was a huge job, getting a 4-inch and all the bits and bobs through here. Not a lot of room. It does taper to a 3.5-inch here, and then jumps over this cross member into a muffler, jumps over the diff here. I went as high as I possibly could, give it as much chance of clearing everything as possible, and then into the resi. I don't know if I just showed you, but it also has the 4-inch dump option here as well. So on this like little Virex, you can open it with a button, and then the whole lot just bypasses all the mufflers. And then we got the wastegate plumbed in up here as well. You can see him there. Yeah, pretty happy with it. Alright, so while I was busy doing the exhaust, Brendo's did the long arm kit. So that's in there. All finished. Also got the new upper arms in there as well, so we can adjust the pinion angle to suit. And he's also put roll cage joiners on the boxes of the long arms, and what they're going to do is they're going to mount the sliders that he's made. So as you can see, which is pretty cool. So they need a bit of paint, and then those can go on as well. But we're just nipping up things. We've got the sump on now as well with the dash 10 fitting for the oil drain. Sump's just been put back on. So we're pretty much ready to come back off the hoist now. And then we're going to get that bull bar fitted up again. And we've got cooler to plumb up, and just a little couple things to do, and then she's pretty much finished. Alright, we just tried to put the front bar on, but it doesn't fit anymore because we put a big old intercooler there. So Brendo's is just modifying the existing winch cradle so that we can get her back in there. So that's probably going to do it for this episode, guys. We've pretty much wrapped it all up. It's going to go back to the owner now, and it's going to get wiring and all that sort of stuff to get it running. So we'll hopefully get some videos off him as well when it gets onto the dyno, and hopefully show you guys how that goes, because that's probably the exciting part of the job. As far as we go with the fabrication stuff, our job is done. So we're going to get back on the trailer to the owner, and he's going to take it away.